There's no denying that the Batman, Matt Reeves' version of the Dark Knight, is causing some problems for the DCU, James Gunn's DCU, because he simply can't get his Batman going right now while this potential trilogy is still in flux. But now it looks like not only is the DCU under threat from the Batman, but the MCU could be under threat from the Batman, as it seems to be poaching its actors. Hi everyone, it's Az here from HeelvsBabyface. There's no denying that the Batman Part 2 by Matt Reeves is absolutely causing problems for James Gunn's DCU, on top of the problems that James Gunn himself is creating by his own design. And by his own design, I mean making a load of crap. Nobody watched Creature Commandos, the animated series. Peacemaker was a complete and utter joke, some of the worst television I've ever seen in my life. And James Gunn's Superman, or as it's now referred to, Superman's James Gunn, did terribly at the box office, in as much as it didn't make its money back. It lost money at the box office. And with Supergirl coming next, and let's just say a lot of eyes are rolling when it comes to that trailer, and I cannot in any capacity see that outperforming Superman. And then James Gunn saying that the next movie, Man of Tomorrow, is a movie about James Gunn, how he sees himself in Lex Luthor, and then how he sees himself in Superman, because everything about James Gunn's DCU has revolved around one focal point, and that is James Gunn. Every project that he announced initially, from Superman being the first film, Superman Legacy, which was such a stupid name. How can you have a legacy when you've just started? It's dumb. Through to The Authority, meant to have been the second film. Then it was meant to be Batman the Brave and the Bold, which featured Damian Wayne as Robin, who was actually the fifth Robin iteration, because James Gunn prefers that one, because it's written by Grant Morrison, and that's the one he prefers, so that was going in. All kinds of things were announced. An Amanda Waller TV show, not happening. Booster Gold TV show, not happening. We were going to have Game of Themyscira, where we're going to have a Game of Thrones type of show based on Themyscira with Wonder Woman and that, the Amazonians. It just seemed absolutely relentlessly bad. And then on top of that, they just couldn't get their Batman going, because even though The Batman came out in 2022, so it's nearly 4 years since it came out, The Brave and the Bold never materialized. The Authority never materialized, thank God. And James Gunn's trajectory just seems to have completely focused to the super part of DC. Superman, Supergirl, Superman again, Lex Luthor, Man of Tomorrow. And there isn't a lot of excitement. Brave and the Bold has been talked about. No Batman has been cast. Now they're saying Brave and the Bold could come out in 2028. I don't think James Gunn's going to have a job with the DCU in 2028. And then on top of that, now the Batman is going into production, like filming this month, allegedly, January 2026. And we've seen a couple of casting choices. Number one, Scarlett Johansson, former Black Widow for the MCU, has joined the cast. Then, we've only just found out, over the course of the last few days, Sebastian Stan, aka the Winter Soldier, who's still an active member of the MCU, and not only was he seen as little as last year in the Thunderbolts, but he's about to appear again in Doomsday in December of this year, if that release date holds. So now The Batman Part 2 is not only causing massive problems for the DCU, but it could be potentially bringing an end to the MCU, because if they're going to lose the characters that at least some semblance of fandom exists to support them, then it could be done for the MCU. That soft reboot that they're meant to be planning after Secret War is just not really going to happen, because I think there's too much fatigue as is, and people just want that multiverse stuff, that overarching, you must see all of our movies, all of our TV shows to get the whole picture. People are burnt out and they don't want it. And one thing that The Batman offers is that there's no real universe attached around it. Yeah, there was that season of the Penguin, but that's it. And there's been a nice gap between the two movies, because there'll be a 5-year gap between The Batman and The Batman Part 2. But that's just crazy stuff. So now that that sort of element's out of the way, let's get into some nerd talk about what could potentially be going on with The Batman 2 and who both Scarlett Johansson and Sebastian Stan could be playing in that film. Forbes says Sebastian Stan's The Batman Part 2 role may confirm Scarlett Johansson's. Now, the speculation surrounding Scarlett Johansson was that she was going to play Harvey Dent's wife, Gilda Dent. That was a rumor that spread almost immediately. Now, Sebastian Stan being cast, surprise, surprise, the speculation around his role is that he will be playing Harvey Dent, and therefore confirming that Scarlett Johansson will be Gilda Dent. Matt Reeves, though, has said that his villain is not going to be a villain that's already been seen on the screen. And the villains that we've seen on the screen before, of course, have been Penguin, but he had the Penguin in The Batman. We've had Joker many times now. We've had Mr. Freeze. We've had Two-Face with Tommy Lee Jones in Batman Forever. We've had Poison Ivy. We've had Catwoman, the Riddler, Jim Carrey, and of course, the Riddler was in Matt Reeves' original The Batman. So maybe he's trying to do something different with this one. Into the Nolan-verse, we had Scarecrow. We've had Ra's al Ghul, Talia al Ghul, Bane, Joker again, of course, Catwoman again, of course. So yeah, there's been a lot used. And for Zack Snyder, I mean, Batman didn't really get to concentrate on his own rogues gallery, but there was hints that one of the people who were in the Batman v Superman was actually KG Beast, which is not a vastly known character, probably to a lot of people. A lot of things have already been done. This is my guess. It seems to me, and this is pretty cool. By the way, I think this image of Sebastian Stan as Two-Face looks fantastic. This is so kind of comic accurate. It's crazy. It's brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. I do love that. But the fact that it's been put out there so quickly, so early, that it's going to be Gilda Dent and Harvey Dent, I think it's a misdirection. That's what I think it is. I think it's a misdirection. Because if we look at The Batman from 2022, that was not the route that they were taking. Not that they have to do that, but the route that they were taking was a more subtle one that probably a lot of people didn't see or didn't know the character or where this would go. But it was pointing very much at another villain materializing in Robert Pattinson's Batman's future. And it all leads to this part of the Batman film where the Riddler has been leaving clues for Batman. And we see this snippet relating to a gentleman called Edward Elliot. Now, there's another person in the Batman verse that kind of goes by a very similar name, and that is Tommy Elliot. Tommy Elliot being the son of Edward Elliot, aka Hush. I just have a suspicion that Harvey Dent isn't who Sebastian Stan is going to play. Or if it is Harvey Dent, then I don't think that Matt Reeves has cast his main villain. Now we could jump back to Scarlett Johansson in a moment as regards to that, because she isn't necessarily Gilda Dent or Holiday, if you've read The Long Halloween, but I won't go into that just in case you haven't, because I highly recommend that you do. So I think that Sebastian Stan could be in line to play Tommy Elliot, aka Hush. Hush hasn't been seen on the big screen before. Sadly, he has been seen on the small screen in the terrible Batwoman TV show, but we don't want to talk about that. Nobody talks about that. Unfortunately, nobody saw it either. So putting Tommy Elliot as Tommy Elliot should be represented on the big screen would still be something new, if you ask me. And it would go in line with the breadcrumbs that were left from the first film, and Hush being the major villain of the Batman would be a decent foil for this Pattinson Batman that we have. Which then leads us to the question about who potentially will Scarlett Johansson play. Now, Den of Geek throws some possibilities into the ring. Let's just have a look at them to see how viable they are. First one, Poison Ivy. We've seen Scarlett Johansson with red hair, of course. Black Widow. But if Matt Reeves is being truthful and saying that his main villain is going to be one that hasn't been seen on the big screen so far, that would rule out Poison Ivy immediately because she was in Batman and Robin. Silver St. Cloud. I don't think it would be Silver St. Cloud. And this is probably a character that a lot of you have never heard of. They played with her character a bit in the TV show Gotham, which was an awful TV show, and I'll hear no different. Thank you very much. But she appeared in the 300s run of the Batman comic, the first volume of Batman, and she played a love interest to Bruce Wayne / Batman. But I just don't think it's a character of real prominence that Scarlett could get her teeth into to get much out of. Andrea Beaumont, Phantasm. Now, this is where my money is currently lying. This is, if I had to make a bet, this is who I think Scarlett Johansson could play. And when I envisage a live action version of Andrea Beaumont, I pretty much envisage Scarlett Johansson, because Scarlett Johansson, she's got that very, she's beautiful. She's got that femme fatale look. She's got that femme fatale voice. You can just see that sort of Art Deco hair from the 30s going on her. She would be absolute perfect casting for Andrea Beaumont, aka the Phantasm. Now, if that's the case, then maybe Sebastian Stan could be Harvey Dent. Not Two-Face, but Harvey Dent. Because it would be good to use the district attorney for Batman to lean on when we have Andrea Beaumont going around probably killing mob bosses, killing mob enforcers. And that would also bring Penguin back into the fray as well, Colin Farrell's Penguin. And of course, it would all be, if you know Mask of the Phantasm, I won't give the ending away, but it's a superb Batman the Animated movie. One of my favorites, if not my favorite. Sub-Zero is also absolutely incredible, but I think Mask of the Phantasm, it just doesn't get the credit that it truly deserves. And you don't necessarily have to bring the Joker aspect in there at all. So I would personally be putting my money on that and have Hush and Andrea Beaumont. But I wouldn't rule out this part. I wouldn't rule out Holiday. Again, if it is going to be Holiday, if it is a kind of bait and switch, not in a necessarily a bad way, but of course, if Sebastian Stan is introduced as Harvey Dent, then the audience could believe that this is going to go down the Two-Face route. He's going to get scarred. He's going to become Two-Face. He will be the main villain. And this is a way that you could subvert expectations in a decent way. You know, most of us, we love ScarJo. Okay? So you could have the bait and switch of having Harvey Dent as Harvey Dent, but you could have Gilda Dent become Holiday. And again, you've got the villains, the mob bosses, the enforcers, whatever, being murdered off. And you could think that it's Harvey Dent's second side starting to dominate. But it turns out actually to be Gilda Dent's Holiday. That story would work really well also. Dr. Hilda Strange, absolutely not. Get out of here. Not even entertaining that one. And we'll leave it at that. Now, The Batman isn't an absolute home run of a movie by any stretch of the imagination. It's 2/3 a good movie, I would say. And Act 3 absolutely falls apart at the seams, having Batman go up against a bunch of YouTubers was pretty pathetic. Matt Reeves, I would encourage you to avoid the social commentary, particularly when you don't really know what you're talking about. But Scarlett Johansson and Sebastian Stan would be fantastic and very smart casting choices. Because you've got Robert Pattinson. It's got a good fan base. He is a good actor. And maybe we'll get a little bit more range from him this time around. Andy Serkis as Alfred. I definitely would love to see much more Andy Serkis involved in this second part. Jeffrey Wright as Commissioner Gordon. I am no fan of race swapping. You know that. But Jeffrey Wright is a great actor. And I think he did a very serviceable Commissioner Gordon. And Colin Farrell as Penguin. Not only was he a lot of fun in the first movie, but that Penguin series was phenomenal. It was absolutely fantastic. And that really cemented him and cemented that character. To see him return for a little bit, look at that already for a cast. That's a phenomenal cast. So if they can nail down what they want to do they want to go down the Phantasm / Year 2 Reaper type storyline? Okay. Or do they want to go down the Long Halloween and have the subversion of Holiday as the main villain? Again, it wouldn't be a bad choice. But what I do know is that there's much and many more interesting things to discuss surrounding the Batman 2 than there is around anything involving the MCU or James Gunn's James Gunn-verse. So I guess we'll just have to wait and see. And I will see you in the next video. Until then, you take care. Goodbye, Blue Ball.